Welcome to KIX Footy Chat with Danny and Max. Firstly, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Joyce Main South Narra, McDonald's South Narra and Bomaderry, Southern Man Ulladulla, and Shoalhaven Hot Water and Elements. Now, last week, Danny...
And Max Ulladulla Removals and Storage.
Can't forget them as well. CJ and Terry, they'll move anything, anywhere. They love it. Now, last week on the Footy Chat, we talked all about defence. This week, Danny, guess what we're going to talk about?
Attack.
We're going to talk about attack. So many points scored last week in the footy. What do we have? Port Kembla and Narra racked up 58 points between them.
The Shell Harbour put 64 points on Albion Park on their own.
Shell and Warilla Lake South Gorillas, I think their coach wants to thank me because last week I said they couldn't score any tries, Danny. They scored 12 last week, 9 separate try scorers.
And Gerringong 32 beat Kiama 12, Max. So it was all about tries this week.
Points fest in round 7. Now the upshot of all the results, we have a clear competition leader because Gerringong Lions inflicted the first defeat of the season against the Kiama Knights. They're now on 11 points, 4 teams behind them on 10. Shell Harbour, Jamboree, Port Kembla and the Kiama Knights, and Narra Bomaderry now, Danny, sitting 3 points out of the 5.
Yeah, they've fallen away a little bit, and they play Albion Park, Warilla Lake South Gorillas this week, and they're on 6 points, Max, so it's pretty close there.
Makes it a very interesting game. We'll come back to that a little later on, but we thought we'd have a look at some of the lower grades because we've ignored the lower grades. So sorry, we'll get on to you today. Now, in reserve grade, 2 undefeated sides. Those old rivals, Gerringong Lions and Kiama Knights, 6 from 6 sitting on top of the table.
Yep, Shell Harbour have only lost the
Oh, they're undefeated as well.
Undefeated as well.
Goodness gracious, I can't read. And we've watched a lot of reserve grade footy in the lead up to the first grade games when we're doing the calls, and some great footy being played, some great players in reserve grade.
Yeah, there has been, and the crowds really get behind the reserve grade games at the local grounds, which is good.
They certainly do. Now, rounding out the top 5, we've got Gerringong, Kiama, Shell Harbour, all undefeated. And then a logjam of 5 teams on 8 points behind them. Berry, Port Kembla, Stingrays, Jamboree, Albion Park. So a long way to go before we sort out a top 5 in that one, although it is only mid-season. Yep. Languishing is the word for the bottom of the table there. Milton Ulladulla Bulldogs and surprisingly Narra Bomaderry Jets. Neither of those teams have won a game in reserve grade.
No, things aren't real good down at Milton Ulladulla at the moment.
No, we had a great day there on the weekend.
We did.
Fantastic. Thanks to the club, thanks to Todd and Leroy. Leroy's a legend. In the third grade, only one undefeated team. Hold on, I'll read that again. Yes, it is only one in this one, Danny. Albion Park Outlaws. Outstanding.
Culburra Dolphins, they're also playing quite well. They're on 8 points. And then Shell Harbour City Sharks on 8. Gerringong Lions on 7. And rounding it out is Stingrays of Shell Harbour on 6.
Yeah, and the romantic story of the year for mine, the comeback of Sussex Inlet Panthers. They haven't been in grade football senior for a while. They started off the season well, but they've had a lot of injuries recently and they're really showing a lack of depth. And they are too languishing on the bottom of the third grade table. In the under-18s, love watching the under-18s. There's so much competition there. They're young and fit and fast like we used to be.
No.
Many years ago.
Too many years ago.
We were young once, anywho.
Yep.
One undefeated side there, Kiama Knights as well. No wonder they're on top of the club championship. Narra Bomaderry doing well in the under-18s, reigning premiers. They've only lost 1 game for the season. Berry, Shoalhaven Heads, Magpies sitting on the bottom there. And the Women's League tag, Milton Ulladulla Bulldogs, I watched them play on the weekend. They only had 10 players. You meant to have 11. And they still managed a huge win. They're the team to watch in the Women's League tag. 7 from 7, sitting on top of the table from Kiama, Berry and Jamboree.
I think you were saying, Max, that when it first started, there was only 2 or 3 teams, maybe 4?
Look, I'm thinking about 3 or 4 years ago, there was only 2 or 3 teams in Women's League tag. Now there's 12.
Yep.
It's an outstanding competition. If you're thinking of going to the footy one weekend, get there early, watch the women go around. It is outstanding.
Yep.
Now, speaking of games this weekend, we've got Berry taking on Kiama on Saturday. Could be interesting, that one. Jamboree, Port Kembla Blacks on Saturday. What a clash that's going to be.
It's probably game of the round, Max. Been a long time since that's happening between those 2 teams.
Yeah, I can't think. Full stop, I can't think. Anyway, on Sunday, Milton Ulladulla Bulldogs will try and get a win against the Premiers Gerringong Lions, but it's not going to be an easy one for them at all, no. Danny. Shell Harbour City Sharks hosting Albion Park Oak Flats Eagles, bit of a local derby. That'll be a cracking game as well.
Yeah, will be, although they had 64 points put on them last week, and Shell Harbour in pretty good form.
They've got something to prove though, Albion Park.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and the game we'll be at is kind of crucial for the mid-section of the table. Narra Bomaderry Jets hosting the Warilla Lake South Gorillas. As mentioned, Narra 3 points out of the 5. Warilla 1 point behind them. So you went through the permutations a couple of seconds ago, Danny.
Yeah, it's hard because only 7 games in, so only a third of the way, or just close enough to halfway through the competition. But if you're 3 points behind the 5th place, or 4 points behind with 11 games to go, then you end up chasing a race. The teams up front aren't going to be losing too many games. Very difficult. So this is a pivotal game for both clubs. The loser of this could well find themselves out of the race for even this far out of the comp.
You don't want to lose touch with that top pack of 5 teams there, definitely, even if it is only about mid-season. Catch all the action this weekend. Sunday we'll be on air from 2:15. Yes, we've got an extra 15 minutes each week now, Danny. It's
we have.
awesome.
It's good, Max. We get plenty of time to talk to people, and if you want to come down and say hello, please do. We'll be at the Nowra Showgrounds from 2:15.
KIX 101.1 FM is where you'll catch all the live Group 7 Rugby League action, and we hope to have your company on Sunday afternoon from Nowra Showground.